In Rome, a rumor was more dangerous than a sword blow. Because a sword wounded a body, it would heal again over time. A rumor, however, could shake an empire to its foundations. That day, the palace walls trembled not with news of war, but with whispers. People in every corner were talking about this event, about this name. The name of a gladiator reached the gates of the imperial family. That name shook the palace doors. And with that name, a single word rose: treason. Faustina, Empress of Rome, wife of Marcus, mother of 12 children, a woman honored before the Senate, saluted by the army, the woman the army would follow to the death on a single command. And opposite her, a man who meant nothing to Rome, a man forged in blood, sweat, and sand, a gladiator, a nobody, just a warrior. This was the story. Faustina had fallen in love with a gladiator. She burned for him. She couldn't live without seeing him. She couldn't stand even a moment without him. She had fallen in love with him, and this love would be her end. Was this true? No one knew. No one had proven it. No one was sure. But in Rome, something didn't have to be true. If enough people believed it, it was already real. In Rome, there was a belief that if something was known by everyone, it was true. The Senate rose to its feet. This is an insult to the honor of the empire, they said. This is treason against Rome, they said. This woman must be punished, they said. They said this woman had committed the gravest crime, and they took action. The generals gathered. The men returning from the battlefields were now weighing a woman's heart. They were preparing her end. For them, the solution was simple. The gladiator would be killed, the woman banished, honor would be saved. Saving honor meant death and exile in Rome. The people waited. In amphitheaters, marketplaces, temple steps, everyone whispered the same question. They spread the same rumor. What will the emperor do? What orders would Marcus give? Everyone wanted him to kill the gladiator. Because this was not just a matter of marriage. It was a test of power. It was a representation of the power of authority. If a man could not control betrayal, even in his own home, how would he control Rome? How would he reign in the powerful strings of Rome? And Marcus Aurelius remained silent. He didn't shout. He didn't slam doors. He didn't expose his wife to the public. He didn't send the gladiator to the arena to send a message with his blood. If he wanted to, he could have resolved the issue in seconds, just like the other emperors. However, he chose something else. The hardest thing, silence. He chose to follow the path of wisdom. Before the Senate, he spoke only one sentence. To love a person is not to possess them. You love a person, but they are not yours. They are not your slave. This statement divided Rome in two. Rome was split into factions. Some looked on with admiration, while others interpreted this statement as weakness. They argued that the emperor had shown weakness because Rome loved to possess. Possession was in the blood of the Romans. Land, cities, people, titles. Everything belonged either to Rome or to the enemy. There was no other option in their eyes. But Marcus was looking elsewhere. He saw Faustina not as a woman, but as a mirror of his own ego. He saw her as an external manifestation of his own ego. Because for a Stoic, the real question is not, what did this event do to me? But rather, what did I become in the face of this event? What solution did I come up with in the face of this event? An accusation of betrayal can destroy a marriage. It can break up homes that have lasted for years. But what it really destroys is the obsession with possession within a person. Marcus saw this. He asked himself this question. He asked the question that would echo through the pages of history for centuries. Do I love her? Or do I see her as an extension of myself? Do I see her as a part of me? If love is possession, then betrayal is merely a loss of property. like losing something that belonged to you, just like having an object stolen or losing a piece of land. But if love is freedom, it is being free, then even betrayal cannot tarnish your character. It never has the power to do so. It only reveals the other person's choices. That is why Marcus' silence was not weakness. Marcus never showed weakness. It was a man taming his own pride, taking the reins into his own hands. Not wanting revenge did not mean he did not suffer. On the contrary, he was experiencing the deepest pain. No one could understand the pain he was going through, letting go of his pride. For a human being, this was harder than death. Because sometimes the hardest battle is not against the person in front of you, but against the identity you have built based on what they have done to you. Marcus was not struggling with the rumors about Faustina, but with the echoes in his own mind. Who does this make me? That was the real question. The Senate wanted honor. The people wanted punishment. The generals wanted blood. Marcus, however, he set himself a limit. I will not be a man shaped by another's sin. And so he remained silent, because he knew sometimes a sentence can raise an empire, but silence can save a man. This story is not a story of betrayal. This is the story of a man who understood what love is not. To love is not to possess. To love is not to lose oneself. When Faustina's name echoed in that room for the first time, Marcus Aurelius did not raise his eyes. He did not move, only listened attentively. The greatest power of an emperor lies not in what his face says, but in what it does not reveal. This is true power, true sovereignty. That day, his face was calmer than any Roman general could ever read. He was serene like a sage. But serenity is not emotionlessness. Being serene does not mean indifference. Rather, it means determining your response. And silence is not painlessness. No historian wrote about the storm that raged within Marcus at that moment. No book mentions it, because that storm erupted not in Rome, but in the darkest place of the human soul. The knife plunged into a man's honor is always invisible. No one can see it, except the wise. And betrayal, it heals more slowly than the wounds of war. The emperor knew this best. He knew everything, but Marcus realized this. Anger is the quickest, but the most foolish response to pain. And an emperor's first reflex determines the fate of his empire. So he remained silent, because a decision made in anger would serve his ego, not Rome. And Marcus's toughest battle was not against Rome's enemies, but against his own pride. The Senate mistook his silence for weakness. The generals mistook his waiting for indecision. The people thought justice was delayed. But Marcus Aurelius was thinking, will this event destroy my virtue, or will it reveal it? Time will tell which it will be. For the Stoic, the world is like a mirror. It does not shape you. It reveals you. It lays bare your true inner world. The rumors surrounding Faustina turned into a single question in Marcus' mind. What kind of man will I be in this situation? Because a person's reaction, when faced with betrayal, is the naked truth of their character. Some shout, some break things, some cleanse their pride with blood. Marcus, however, chose to be the master of his pride. Anger is easy, pride is cheap, revenge is sweet. But all these things distance a person from themselves. Marcus knew this. For him, betrayal was not a crime to be punished. It was a test to be overcome. Whether Faustina was guilty or not did not concern Marcus. Because for the Stoic, what matters is not the truth, but the attitude towards the truth. That is why Marcus' silence was heavy. That is why it was frightening. That is why it was deeper than anyone could understand. That is why everyone saw his silence as weakness. That silence was the restraint of anger, was the subjugation of pride, was the salvation of a human being, not an empire. It was the continuation of a human life. The world was waiting for a man to judge his wife. Marcus, however, was judging his own soul. He was questioning his own inner world. The justice Rome demanded was written in blood. The justice Marcus sought, however, was an inner sense of order. And on that day, the heaviest sentence that crossed his mind was, "A man may betray me, but I must not betray my own character." The rumors about Faustina did not destroy Marcus, but Marcus' silence destroyed Rome's accustomed understanding of masculinity. Because that day, Marcus Aurelius did not act like an emperor, but like a man in pursuit of truth. He was like a sage seeking the truth. That is why history remembers not what Faustina did, but what Marcus did not do. And silence sometimes speaks louder than a scream. Only the wise can hear that voice. The rest of humanity merely labels that silence is weakness. When rumors about Faustina hit the walls of Rome, the city was instantly divided in two. On one side, a crowd consumed by rage, a people seeking revenge. On the other, the incomprehensible silence in the emperor's eyes. That indescribable calm. No one even knew who the gladiator was. A war machine, born a slave, raised on blood, grown up in battle. And now, according to the rumors, a man who had cast a shadow over the emperor's bed. A slave who had cast a shadow over the emperor's honor. According to Roman justice, the punishment for such a crime was clear. The man would be torn apart in the arena, the woman humiliated before the public. The generals expected this. They wanted it to happen. The Senate wanted it. The people were eager to watch it happen. But Marcus Aurelius did none of these things. He silently watched what was happening. Because he knew true power lies not in destroying a person, but in controlling an idea. When he controlled that idea, all problems would disappear. The question spinning in Marcus' mind was, if I kill this man, what will I have solved? What would I gain? The betrayal? The rumor? Or would he just satisfy his own ego? He asked himself these questions. And at this point, Marcus did something that very few people in history would dare to do. Something only wise people can do. He put truth at the center, not himself. He judged not the gladiator, but his own mind. He examined his own thoughts. Then he examined not Faustina, but his own judgments. Because a Stoic knew that when emotion attacks you, the first victim is actually your mind. Emotions first collided with your ideas. Marcus did not die in the face of betrayal, but he could have died in the face of pride. He could not bear that. That is why he did not punish her. He did not seek revenge. He did not pursue the betrayal. He did none of these things. The reason was not his love for Faustina, nor was it the honor in Rome's eyes. If it had been, he would have killed that gladiator long ago. He would have sent his wife into exile. The reason was the silent agreement Marcus had made with himself. I will not make my thoughts the slave of a rumor. My thoughts are not as worthless as this rumor. They could be wrong, they could be right. It didn't matter to Marcus. He didn't care about any of that. The only thing that mattered to him was this. How does this rumor make me who I am? Does it move me forward or push me further back? This was where Marcus' genius lay. Rome was looking for a crime. Marcus was looking for a character. The people wanted a criminal. Marcus was looking for a lesson. The world wanted blood. Marcus wanted wisdom. This is where the difference between the Roman people and Marcus became apparent. And that day, Marcus Aurelius understood this. Even if you are the emperor's wife, you cannot control a person's actions. You can only control your own mind. When you are emperor, whatever is in that country is yours, but their feelings are not yours. You only own their bodies and their possessions. That is why he did not punish the gladiator, because that gladiator was not an enemy to Marcus, and never could be. The real enemy was the fiction and anger that grew within man himself. Man's true enemy is his own feelings and anger, which he carries within his own body every day. Faustina's alleged betrayal was met with silence, something Rome did not understand. But Marcus knew one truth: a wrong reaction is a greater mistake than a wrong action. Sometimes it is not what a person does, but how you respond to it that determines your fate. And Marcus Aurelius, he drew that fate with silence. As rumors about Faustina grew, Rome's pulse quickened. Every street, every market, every council whispered a single question: what will the emperor do? The people expected Marcus to act with pride. The Senate expected him to save Rome's honor. The generals expected him to silence the rumors with blood. But Marcus saw something else: the dark side of humanity, the arrogance nurtured in the name of honor, the desire for possession hidden in the shadow of love, and most importantly, a rage that had nothing to do with reality. Was Faustina guilty? Was she not? No one knew for sure. But for Marcus, the answer didn't matter. Because for him, the real question was, what does a rumor make me? An emperor? Or a man enslaved by his anger? Marcus' answer was clear. He was never a servant of anger. That's why he didn't seek revenge. That's why he didn't demand accountability. That's why he didn't impose the punishment Rome expected. Because as a Stoic, he knew this. People's actions may disturb you, but what truly wounds you is your reaction to those actions. Marcus ruled an entire empire, but first he had to rule his own soul. Punishing Faustina would have pleased Rome, but that would have meant betraying Marcus's own morality. And he did not do that. That day, Marcus Aurelius' silence was not a weakness. It was not surrender. It was not turning a blind eye. That silence was the sword of thought. It was a barrier drawn against anger. It was a candle lit against the darkness. Marcus asked himself, if I unleash my anger because of a rumor, then who am I? An emperor? Or a slave to his reactions? Rome wanted to see Marcus's reaction, but Marcus wanted to see the lack of reaction within himself. Because a Stoic knows, it is not a person's action that wounds you. It is your judgment that binds you to that action. Faustina was not accused. The gladiator was not punished. The Senate was silenced. The people were stunned. No one expected this from Marcus. And Marcus understood what the crowd did not. Some truths lie not in what a man does. They lie in how a man reacts. The rumors about Faustina did not destroy Marcus, but Marcus's reaction made him immortal. Because that day, a man did not defend his wife. An emperor defended his legacy. He defended the rights of Rome. The whispers echoing through Rome's marble corridors had not yet subsided. Senators clapped their hands together. Generals paced angrily. Philosophers bit their lips. No one was happy with this situation, and everyone was trying to understand the shock caused by a single sentence. To love a person is not to possess them. This statement was a challenge to Rome. It was as if the Roman people were against Marcus. It was not a confession of love. It was not an excuse. It was the declaration of the most painful and heavy law Marcus Aurelius had learned throughout his life. Because he was an emperor who had seen both battlefields and the labyrinths of the human soul. And he knew this. People do not belong to each other. They pass each other's paths, walk side by side for a while, sometimes part ways, sometimes meet again, but they never become each other's property. For Rome, this idea was the most foreign and disturbing thing that could come from an emperor's mouth. Because for Rome, power meant to possess, to control, to rule. For Marcus, power was about setting the spirit free, not severing ties, but not pulling too tightly either. The rumors about Faustina grew louder and louder. A gladiator, a scandal, a betrayal, and an emperor's silence. Marcus' silence, lack of anger, lack of reaction horrified Rome, because what an emperor was expected to do was clear: accuse, punish, take revenge, show his power. But Marcus Aurelius did something different, something Rome would never understand. He owned himself. He knew that a person's action does not hurt you. What hurts you is that action shattering your expectation. True pain arises not from the behavior, but from the collapse of the dream. And love. Love lives not in expectation, but in acceptance. Had Faustina truly betrayed him? Some said yes, some said no. Most didn't know. But for Marcus, the truth was different. Love is tested not by certainty, but by uncertainty. If you love someone, you bear their flaws, but you don't let them rule you. Loyalty is not a chain, it is a choice, and everyone bears the weight of their own choice. If Faustina was guilty, her character would pay the price. Marcus didn't have to bear her fate, but he chose not to bear hatred. He chose not to bear revenge. He chose not to bear anger. Because he knew this, it's easy to punish a person, but to understand a person, that takes a lifetime. Only someone who truly valued that person could understand them. To Rome, this appeared to be a sign of weakness. The people believed the emperor had lost his pride. The Senate considered it a disgrace to the state. But for Marcus Aurelius, this was the heaviest test of the human spirit. Betrayal. It splits the human spirit in two. On one side, resentment, on the other, pride. And between them, silently standing, a third thing, the will to carry on. Marcus felt it all. He bore the weight of it all, but none of it could drag him down. Because true power lies not in controlling others. It lies in controlling your own judgment. And that day, Marcus Aurelius made a vow to himself. A rumor cannot speak louder than my character. So he did not speak. He did not shout. He did not punish. He did not break Faustina. He simply remained silent. Because some answers do not come from the mouth. Some answers are hidden in a person's stance. And sometimes the strongest answer an emperor can give is to say nothing at all. Faustina's story exploded like a storm in Rome. Her name was on everyone's lips. Gossip, accusations, secret meetings, senators whispering in dark corridors. Every head had a different voice, but all those voices fell silent at once, replaced by one thing: Marcus Aurelius' silence. His attitude toward the situation turned things around. He didn't shout. He didn't get angry. He didn't defend himself. Nor did he put on the tough emperor mask that others wanted him to wear. He just stood there. He just thought. And he just remained silent. He simply did what wisdom demanded. Because the most powerful man in the world knew this better than anyone. A person's actions may harm you, but what magnifies that harm is your own uncontrolled thoughts. Faustina's betrayal, or the unverified rumors, was a scandal for Rome. The people were angry, the generals impatient, the Senate mistook vengeance for justice. But for Marcus, this was not a betrayal. It was a test of humanity. On that day, in a world where people confused love with possession, Marcus Aurelius was the only one who found freedom in not possessing. And that is why Rome feared his silence. Because people are prepared for violence, prepared for anger, prepared for punishment, but never for mercy. If an emperor shows no anger, no one knows what to do. Marcus Aurelius' silence did not command Rome, but it held up a mirror to Rome. And people saw themselves in that mirror. Their hunger for possession, their jealousy, that distorted illusion they called justice, their obsession with controlling the fate of others, Faustina's story was never a story of betrayal. This story was a place where the desire to possess clashed with the courage to set free. The story of every person caught between their ego and their heart. As Marcus Aurelius said, If you love a person, you don't even break their shadow, because you know that even a shadow is the result of freedom. Rome didn't understand this, but history did. History did not forget Marcus' silence, because sometimes a single silence speaks louder than 1,000 years of words. We still ask today, why did an emperor remain silent about his wife's betrayal? The answer is not simple, but it is certain. Because Marcus Aurelius judged himself before judging anyone else. He questioned himself first. He questioned his own feelings and thoughts one by one. And he did not utter a single word to the world that did not pass through his conscience. Silence was not a refuge from fear for him, but a signature of his character. Most people misunderstand silence. They mistake silence for passivity. They mistake silence for retreat. They mistake silence for defeat. They look down on those who are silent. Those who look down on this are those who have never heard of Marcus Aurelius. Yet sometimes silence ... is the clearest sign of a spirit that has transcended itself. It is the outward expression of a wise spirit. It is a stance that carries not the power of words, but the weight of knowledge. Faustina's secret was lost over time, but Marcus' silence continues even today. Rome fell, walls crumbled, marble collapsed. But the mark left by that silence still stands. And only one question remains. Can you love someone without possessing them? Can you understand them without judging them? Can you turn to yourself before anger? Can you see the person before pride? Whatever the answer may be, one day, Marcus's silence will knock on your door too. And on that day, you will understand, sometimes the loudest voice is saying nothing at all. Send this video to a friend who doesn't know about it and help them adopt this mindset. Stay stoic.